Hello there, YouTube. It is your WB3 back with another kicking movie reaction review. Today's film is The Curse of Frankenstein from 1957. This is one of the famous Hammer horror films. We've reviewed Hammer films before. I think I reviewed a couple on the G&G channel back when I reviewed films over there. I don't think this is even the first one on this channel. It might be the first Hammer horror, because I have reviewed 10 million years BC. Is that the Harryhausen dinosaur film? That was Hammer. But yeah, The Curse of Frankenstein is not rated, horror, sci-fi, British in origin. It's about an hour and a half long. You can watch it on several different platforms: HBO Max, Hulu, YouTube TV, Sling TV, normal YouTube, Google Play Movies and TV, Redbox, Vudu, and Amazon Prime Video, which is where I watched it. I recently got a movie set that has the sequel on it, so I had to watch this puppy on Amazon so that I could watch the sequel. Ta-da! So it's got 7 out of 10 on IMDb, 81% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 3.6 out of 5 on Letterboxd, with 89% of Google users liking the film. Let me give you a quick read-up real quick here. Jesus. Victor Frankenstein, played by Peter Cushing, is a brilliant scientist willing to stop at nothing in his quest to reanimate a deceased body. After alienating his longtime friend and partner, Paul Crimp, played by Robert Urquhart, with his extreme methods, Frankenstein assembles a hideous creature, played by Christopher Lee, out of dead body parts and succeeds in bringing it to life. But the monster is not as obedient or docile as Frankenstein expected, and it runs amok, resulting in murder and mayhem. Here in the U.S., it dropped on June 27th, 1957, directed by Terence Fisher. Budget about $500,000 USD. Cinematography by Jack Asher, distributed by Warner Brothers, and adapted from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus. Another look at the casting: we got Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, Hazel Court, Valerie Gaunt, Robert Urquhart, Jimmy Sangster, and Melvin Hayes. Yes, this is definitely a classic film. I still prefer the Universal one, the Universal Monsters one with Boris Karloff. That film just woof. But this one's still excellent. Still excellent. I mean, you got Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. They always do such great work together and independent of each other. Very much so. So Dr. Frankenstein's parents die, and he's but a teen. And so he hires on this tutor, and the tutor kind of becomes a best friend and even somewhat of a father figure to him in a way. But they grow up, and, well, one's already grown up. But Frankenstein grows up, this guy grows older, and they revive a puppy from the dead, which is pretty ace. Good job, guys. And then Frankenstein's immediately like, all right, let's build a person from scratch. And Paul says to him, he says, "Excuse, that's not kosher." And then they actually start to do it. And as they're going along, Paul's like, this is fucked. I can't do this anymore. And he would leave, but Victor's first cousin, Elizabeth, comes to live with them, and she's going to marry Victor. You know how it was, olden times. And still today, if you ask Rudy Giuliani. That's always going to be funny to me. But, yeah, so rich guy's going to marry his cousin. You know how it be. But Paul's like, I'm going to stay here, but only to try to keep your awful stuff away from Elizabeth. And then he's staying there to try to stop it. And eventually he does leave. Frankenstein murders a professor to get his brain for the monster, and Paul tries to destroy the brain, is only partially successful, which allegedly leads to the monster being, well, monstrous. And the monster does look excellent. I believe NECA acquired a license to make some Hammer stuff quite a while ago, and hopefully we'll be getting ultimates of, like, Peter Cushing, Frankenstein, and Christopher Lee, Frankenstein's monster, both in the wraps and in the coat. I would like all of them. I mean, what a great looking monster. It's a really disgusting looking creature. It truly is. Truly, truly. And it does kill several people, and Frankenstein does eventually take the blame for it. He is really just going insane. He tricks his mistress into getting killed by the monster, and he threatens Paul. He's like, if you tell the police anything about I've been doing, maybe, something will happen to Elizabeth. Because he doesn't actually give a shit about Elizabeth. He doesn't really care about anybody. I've seen a lot of movies where Frankenstein is straight up an evil dude, and a lot of movies where Dr. Frankenstein is just kind of misunderstood and obsessive, and his obsession leads to ruin. But this Dr. Frankenstein, he's kind of in the middle. He can't see that what he's doing is bad because of his obsession. He's like, after I make this monster and stuff, like, imagine all the people I can help with this. But also, to make the monster, he's making threats and murdering. So he's like a really good balance between the two types of Dr. Frankensteins I usually see. And that was really cool to watch, because you didn't really know what he was going to do. Because he is someone that wants to help people, but he's also someone who's willing to hurt people to get to his own ends. It's a very interesting character. As is Paul. He's very conflicted because he cares about Elizabeth and he cares about Dr. Frankenstein. Very much so. But he also cares about the right thing to do, and he cares about the science. There's some great characterizations in here. There really are. The lady characters are a bit blander. This is an older film, and even today, we don't get a lot of people fleshing out the ladies very much. But, like, Elizabeth wants to marry Dr. Frankenstein because he financially supported her and her mother. And that's like it. She just kind of acts exactly as you would expect her to act. And the mistress acts exactly how you would expect a mistress in a film from this time to act. Truthfully. It is in color, and it looks good in color. It truly does. I'm not a big fan of colorizing films, but if they're already in color, I'm not going to be like, this should have been in black and white. Oftentimes I do prefer black and white just because it's such a cool look for horror, Like with sci-fi and romance and stuff, if I'm watching an older movie, I'm not like, I wish this was in black and white. But sometimes with a horror film, I'm like, God, these shadows and stuff would look so cool in black and white, It's just a different feel, but personally, I only really feel that difference if I'm watching like a horror or thriller or something, you know what I mean? But it's got gorgeous colors. The sets, magnificent sets, exactly what you would expect. They look really good. They're really almost Universal Monster level sets, if not at that level. They look great. The acting, it's pretty good. Like, good for the time. It truly is. I mean, this is a, British film, because, horror was banned in Britain for a while, so then they really got a taste for it once they were allowed to make them. And, acting in the UK is like a high art. Here, it's often just something people do to get rich, to be completely honest. Like, lots of people I know who want to be an actor, a big motivation behind it is wealth and fame. But, like, in Britain, I guess because, like, Shakespeare culture and stuff, that's like a high art. One of their highest arts. That's why all their actors come steal our actors' jobs. So there's high-profile British actors in everything these days, Stateside. But it's really cool. This launched a long stream, a long string of Frankenstein films. And I've seen some of the Dracula too. Hopefully I can get around to reviewing more of the Dracula soon enough. But The Curse of Frankenstein from 1957 is truly, truly an incredible film. The walk that the film takes to getting to the monster kind of feels like it takes a little while. But, it's so satisfying once you finally see the monster alive, and the pacing really picks up from there, so you kind of instantly forgive it once it happens. But it does take a little while to get to the monster. And I feel like in most Frankenstein movies, you either see the monster right at the very beginning, or it feels like it takes a while to get to it just because you'll want to see the monster so badly, But really, I loved it. And I really liked the ending, because Dr. Frankenstein is telling the whole story of everything that happened to a minister of some sort, a father, a religious man, a man of God in his jail cell, and he's trying to get out of being executed. He the murder of his mistress has been pinned on him, and they're gonna take him to the guillotine for it. And then when Paul shows up at the end of the story in the jail cell in real time, Dr. Frankenstein is like, "Oh, Paul, I've confessed everything, but no one believes me. Tell him what really happened." And Paul kind of doesn't deny that it happened, but says Frankenstein murdered her. And it's a really, really cool way to end the movie because it kind of doesn't tell you what the truth is. You know what I mean? I mean, pretty much anyone who watches it is going to believe that Frankenstein was telling the truth, of course. Because they want that to be the truth. They want the monster story to be what really happened. But the movie's end kind of implies that the raving mad Dr. Frankenstein in his jail cell could be imagining it to, get out of being executed. He could be he could be insane, trying to put the blame on a monster in his own head to ease his own guilt. And I really like the way they have Paul respond to Dr. Frankenstein, because he's like, either way, he's not lying. He's very careful about how he responds to Dr. Frankenstein. And that really leaves open a lot of sequel potential, but it's not like, because like in the modern day, if they want to leave something open for a sequel, they basically set up a sequel for the most part. But I like how this film was like, it kind of leaves it so that you could have a sequel, but it doesn't set up a sequel really in any way. It's very cool. They even say that the monster was completely destroyed, like completely dissolved in acid, so there's no evidence. And they take Dr. Frankenstein to the guillotine at the end, and the credits roll over a silhouetted guillotine from a distance, and you can see the blade rise up. It would have been really cool, I think, if it fell at the end, and like right as the credits ended, it like, choomp, hit. But that's another thing. You don't see the guillotine fall. So they could easily make it so he's alive in a sequel. But also, if they don't make a sequel, you absolutely know what Dr. Frankenstein's fate was. This is an incredibly well done film. An incredibly well done film that I do think passes the test of time. The Curse of Frankenstein with Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, Hazel Court, Valerie Gaunt, Robert Urquhart. Excellent, excellent film. I cannot wait to watch the sequel. It's actually in my P.O. box. I really need to run by and pick it up like today. It's been in there for several days, and they get pissy if I leave stuff in there too long. But that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below. Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll be seeing you all, you guessed it, next time. Bye for now.